India banned it. The United States is threatening to ban it. Australia has restricted it. Powerful, wealthy nations can simply tell one of the world's biggest tech platforms, "You're out." But across the entire African continent, TikTok thrives, unrestricted. This isn't because African leaders love the app more. It's because they can't afford to say no. The continent learned this lesson painfully in 2021. Africa is trapped in a global tech war it didn't start, and its inability to take action reveals an uncomfortable truth. Tech independence is a luxury only rich countries can afford. The debate over TikTok's security, whether it's a Chinese surveillance tool or just a harmless video app, dominates headlines in Washington and London. But that noise obscures the real story of global power. For the US and China, the argument is about who controls the platform. For African nations, the reality is about who controls the choice. Wealthy nations can simply remove a dominant social platform because they have leverage. They have domestic alternatives, sophisticated tech infrastructure, and enough economic clout that they can withstand the fallout. India banned TikTok in 2020, losing 200 million users. But the economy didn't collapse. It created space for local apps to flourish. Across Africa, the equation is reversed. Banning the app is a move almost no African government can afford. Take the 2021 suspension of Twitter in Nigeria. The government's attempt to assert digital control backfired spectacularly. Millions of users bypassed the ban instantly with VPNs, making enforcement impossible. More critically, the Nigerian economy lost an estimated $6 million every single day the platform was shut down, crippling businesses that relied on the service. The situation reveals a structural inequality where the continent is forced into the role of a passive consumer of foreign technology. This geopolitical asymmetry means Africa must navigate the dangers of foreign tech influence without the primary tool of sovereignty, the power to say no. The difference between Delhi and Nairobi, in this context, is the difference between an independent global player and a dependent digital economy. The ability of nations like China and India to enforce radical tech regulation stems from their structural leverage. They are not just large markets, they are self-sufficient tech ecosystems. Consider China. It didn't ban YouTube and Facebook because of an immediate security threat. It did so to systematically create space for its own platforms. WeChat, Douyin, the original TikTok, Baidu. This policy created massive world-class companies fully controlled by Chinese entities, ensuring data, control, and revenue stayed domestic. India, the world's most populous democracy, demonstrated a similar capacity in 2020. When the government banned TikTok along with dozens of other Chinese apps, it was a profound act of digital sovereignty. This move was possible because the market already had domestic alternatives, apps like Josh, Moj, and Reposo, ready to absorb the displaced users. India could afford to lose the app because its digital market was already resilient. It could tell a global tech giant, "You are no longer welcome," without fear of economic suicide. This is backed by economic power. When a trillion-dollar economy like India makes a regulatory decision, global tech companies pay attention and comply. They cannot ignore the market. Asian nations have the tech infrastructure to build, the economic power to enforce, and the political will to prioritize national interest over platform dependency. This is the toolkit of tech independence that Africa is currently lacking. African nations are caught in a digital catch-22. They are highly reliant on foreign platforms, and taking action would inflict immediate, painful harm on their own citizens. The core of the problem is the lack of viable alternatives. When India banned TikTok, users migrated to local clones. If Nigeria were to ban TikTok tomorrow, where would the millions of users go? There are currently no homegrown social media platforms operating at the massive scale required to absorb that user base. The digital economy would simply halt. This dependency has profound economic consequences. For a 20-year-old creator in Lagos or Nairobi, TikTok is not just an entertainment app, it is a vital income stream. It's where they market their businesses, sell products, and earn money through creator funds or brand partnerships. Consider Nigerian-American entrepreneurs like the sisters behind Cece's Closet, who design culturally focused fashion accessories in partnership with creators back in Nigeria. They use TikTok to educate and sell, connecting African aesthetics directly to a global audience. Banning the platform means banning their job, crippling the emerging digital livelihoods of a young population struggling with high unemployment. The geopolitical pressure exacerbates Africa's trap. The continent is the unwilling battleground in the simmering tech Cold War between the United States and China. The core conflict is simple. The US sees TikTok as a Chinese surveillance tool and a threat to American tech dominance. China views American calls for a ban as an attempt by the US to monopolize global tech through unfair restriction. African governments find themselves in an impossible dilemma. If a government bans TikTok, it appears pro-US, potentially risking Chinese retaliation, which could come in the form of tech sanctions, reduced infrastructure investment, like Huawei 5G rollouts, or the withdrawal of critical loans. If a government chooses not to ban the app, it is seen as vulnerable to Chinese influence, risking pressure and sanctions from the US, which could impact financial aid or access to American technologies. The TikTok dilemma reveals a deeper, systemic issue that can be accurately described as digital colonialism. The platforms powering Africa's digital economy, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, are all foreign-owned. Zero African control means zero African sovereignty. The most valuable commodity of the modern age, data, is extracted from every African user and flows instantly to servers in Silicon Valley or Beijing. The economic value generated by this data is lost to the continent. More dangerously, the algorithm control is exercised entirely outside of Africa. What content is prioritized, who sees what political message, and which voices are amplified are decisions made in foreign boardrooms, not in Lagos or Johannesburg. This is a profound loss of control over a nation's own digital narrative and information flow. Achieving tech independence seems almost impossible due to a confluence of factors, yet it remains the only viable long-term solution. The most significant barrier is capital requirement. Building a platform with the global reach and technological sophistication of TikTok requires an investment of $10 billion or more. No African venture capital fund or sovereign fund currently possesses that level of resource. This leads to the painful catch-22. To have tech independence, you need massive capital. But you can't generate that capital because your economic value is being extracted by the foreign platforms you are forced to use. Furthermore, network effects are a crippling barrier. Why would an African user switch to a local app when all their friends, family, and potential customers are already established on TikTok, Facebook, or WhatsApp? This network advantage locks in the foreign platforms. The painful reality is that unlike India, which had local-born apps like Koo, Josh, and Moj ready to absorb the massive user base when TikTok was banned, Africa has no scaled, pan-continental short-form video alternative. That void is the clearest evidence of the capital and network barrier. Asia can ban TikTok because it is digitally independent. Africa cannot ban it because it is not. And that simple difference is the fundamental story of global power in the 21st century. The tech Cold War is here, and Africa is the main battleground. The stakes are nothing less than control over the continent's data, economy, and information flow. African governments and entrepreneurs face a monumental task: building digital alternatives from the ground up, while simultaneously navigating intense pressure from two global superpowers. For the continent's future, the focus must shift entirely from being a consumer of global tech to becoming a builder and owner of its own digital destiny. What do you believe is the single most important step an African government could take right now to reclaim its digital sovereignty? Should they invest in a Pan-African social platform or focus entirely on data localization laws? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to understand the specific African startups trying to build these local alternatives, make sure you hit that subscribe button.